If the love of football would transcend to talent, I would be in the NFL Hall of Fame. He chose that outcome, and he chose it, and we obliged him. And I said, well, I guess we ran out of bullets.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Freddie Stevenson from Trials of Triumph. We know it's been a while, but we're excited to get things rolling for season 2. Make sure to go like, subscribe, and share this video because we have a great interview coming up for you. We also want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors for this episode, the Craig Burke Real Estate Group, and Howell, Buchanan, and Strong. We thank you guys for your continuous support, and we're excited for you to join us on this journey as we get started on season 2. For this season, we wanted to talk more about current events in the world. So I'm bringing on my guy, my producer, Kent, to talk about some of the events that are going on and keep you guys up to date. Man, did you catch the championship game?
Dude, I watched the whole thing. It was honestly like, I don't watch a lot of college basketball. I didn't grow up with a team. University of Maine, from Maine, didn't have much. Was rooting so heavily for Walt just because we met him, just because he's one of our guys. Yeah. You know, I mean, like, you know, we had him on so early, and
not a lot of people knew who he was.
Exactly,
yeah.
And it was mostly because we wanted to, like, he was local, you know, we loved his stuff, and I mean, like, I had seen him in the SEC tournament 2 years ago, and been like, wow, he flashes, like, I would love to see what he can do, but I didn't think I didn't know he was from here.
Yeah.
So it's like. Yeah. Once you made that connection, I remember you texted me too. You were like, "Hey, I know we've already filmed all the episodes for season 1, but this guy's gonna be someone. Like, we should have him on." And like that day, it was like you could tell, like, he's just humble. You know, he wanted it.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's interesting that he came on there, humble guy, laid back. You can't help but root for him. But I remember him coming on there. He's like, "Yo, we're gonna win the championship this year," and they actually did it. Like, how many people say that and then they don't win 10 games?
100%. And I think that's the thing too. Is like, it's like there's not a lot of these stories. You know, he's a 0-star recruit.
Yeah.
In basketball, 4-star recruit in football as a quarterback. Remember, right?
Yeah, he was an athlete. Yeah.
He's one of those. I mean, like, did you see that? I don't know if you saw that, but did you see the dot that he threw before the game? They were like doing like a skills competition, and he threw like a dime pass in like one of those passing drills where it's like the circles are like in a wall, and he threaded the needle. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
And put it in there. But he's out of all of the like athletes that we've interviewed. You know, all of them are super nice and super humble, but he was the one out of all of them that I was like he genuinely just cares about being.
Yeah, he's not to put athletes in in a bad light, but you know, everybody has different personalities. He's one that literally, like, when you meet him, he just wants to play ball, and everybody that comes across him, you don't hear any bad stories. He treats people the same, like, treats people with respect, honor, all of those different things. And it's not an act with him. Like, he's being seen, like, even before people knew who he was, you hear these same stories. So just to see him go on and have the success, like, online, you see people fighting over, you know, the rights to him. Like, is he from Lake Wells? Is he from Bartow? Is he from, but that just goes to show you, like, nobody's speaking up for a person that's not worth, you know, that's a terrible person. So that just goes to show you what type of person that he is.
No, he's a good dude, and I think just seeing his evolution over the year. I mean, when we interviewed him for the first time, he was talking a lot about, you know, offense being his strong suit, but him wanting to strengthen his defensive side, and it being a lot of, like, you know, just wanting to be a defender. And you see the evolution even through the tournament.
Yeah.
You know, as the stakes got higher,
teams were trying him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Teams were trying to push him because they're like, oh, he's a 6'3" guard. Like, he's not gonna. But he was holding his own. I mean, he got the last big play. You know, he blocked that shot.
And then in the game before, he got one of those huge steals at the end of the game to separate him. Like, he stepped up in those moments. And as impressive as he is on offense, those were the most impressive moments to me when he stepped up defensively. And man, that last 5 minutes of the game, he's a good player in general, but you put his last 5 minutes of any game up against anybody, I don't think there's a better player in the country. Walter Clayton Jr. in the last 5 minutes of a game is cold-blooded.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think what's really poignant about the last game too is that he was fairly quiet for the first, what is it, like first half in like 10 minutes, and then he kind of like could turn it on the whole time. I think the whole time when I'm watching it, just having watched a lot of their success in the SEC tournament as well as their March Madness run, you can kind of see there's almost a switch, where he knows this is time to turn it on. And it was I mean, huge shout out to Houston because they could figure out how to stop him for that first half.
Yeah.
Usually he can figure it out quicker. But once he got it, he got it.
Yeah.
Once he was like, all right, I just need to drive to the basket, get a couple and ones, hit these threes, like he really understood it. And he played hard defense. He did a great job. I mean, like he and then the best thing, my favorite part of it was at the end when they're like, well, how do you feel? And he's like, I just want to see my mom.
Yeah, everybody love mama, man.
Yeah.
So just shout out to moms, his mama, man. Like we talk about this journey and him as a person, but it goes back to the people that have raised him, his mother, his father, and the work that you guys have done. Like, he's a humble kid. He stays out of the way. He doesn't get in any trouble, and that's what you want. Especially me. Like, he made it. I don't just bring anybody on this platform. He made the process easier, like just talking with him and communicating with him. Like you truly see it, and he's a guy that you truly want to root for. It was my first time meeting him, and I'm rooting for him like he is somebody that I grew up with. That's just what type of person that he is. So
exactly. Shout
out to the family that raised him.
I mean, and just saying, like, there must be something in the water in Polk County. There's just all of these insane athletes, and I mean, it just keeps producing, and he's on that list.
Yeah, for sure.
He won it all, so that's spectacular. I mean, transitioning. Kind of talking about the NBA draft, I think the most interesting thing about this story is that a lot of mock drafts didn't even have him being taken until even in the second round. And now, because of how dynamic of a player he is, he's snuck into like mid first, late first round. And I mean, there's a track record of older guards, kind of being looked over. But performing amazingly well. I mean, like, think about Steph Curry, which, I mean, people are comparing him a lot to, Steph Curry is a big, he came out late and he was drafted after like Ricky Rubio and all that.
Yeah.
But he's got the heart, he's got the mentality. That he's not going to be like one of the basketball players that like goes into the league and like gets super starstruck about it. He's got like the professional build. He's just
go back and look at him from his freshman year at Iona. I think he's averaging seven every year. He's progressed tremendously, and there's still so much more to this. Like, this isn't the cap to Walter Clayton Jr.'s potential. Like, there's so much more that you can get out of this player. So when you look at that, like, 'cause that's usually the knock on older guys. Like, man, they've reached their potential. It's like, no, that's not the case with Walter Clayton Jr. He's only getting better. So think about that when you're drafting, because I do believe that he can go in and make a team better. It just has to be getting up on the right team.
Oh, yeah. He reminds me a lot of, if we're going to akin it to a past draft, Jared McCain, where, very similar. Jared McCain was much younger coming out, but he won a decent amount. He won like state championships in high school. Smaller guard, but he's got heart, and you can tell he's got a good head on his shoulders. And I mean, he's got that 3-point range.
Yeah.
So it's like that's something that was really amazing to me too. Is like, obviously we knew Walt could play offense, like he could drive like no one else. But seeing that 3-point shot develop and shooting off platform threes, all that stuff. It was truly, like, out of everything that we've done in this podcast, the fact that we made that connection with Walt made March Madness feel like a real March Madness.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't have watched it otherwise.
Oh, no. I mean, like, I usually watch, but, like, I don't care, And for this one, it was like, I was like jumping off the couch.
I was in the games. I don't bet. I stopped betting last year. Most peaceful my life has ever been since I've stopped betting and losing money. But I was watching the games as if I was betting. Like that's how I felt watching. Oh man, I just want to see him get a ring, man.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was starting to get discouraged throughout the game. I was like, nah, but I remember they were playing Texas Tech, and then they came back, so they're never out of the fight. And then they came back. I was like, man, if they pull this within 6. They're gonna win. Then they pulled it in within 6. I was like, all right, it's a wrap.
I know it was just amazing that they have that track record, of it going way down, like them being behind so many times in this tournament and turning it around. I mean, like I think there was a graphic on screen that it was like the 3rd highest deficit in the national championship game, and they came back.
Yeah. We'll talk about Walter Clayton Jr. Type of person he is. He has a Florida State Seminole rooting for him to win the national championship. That should say a lot in itself. Like
this reminds me so much of, again, like I said, I was not a huge college sports fan. I just kind of follow college sports. It reminds me so much of when Joe Burrow won the national championship with LSU, and I was like the biggest LSU fan for like 2 years after that because it's just an athlete that captures a whole organization, a whole college team, college in general, and then makes people a fan. Like he's one of those cornerstone, especially in the they had a better year in football last year. They've been progressively getting better at basketball, but like they've kind of been in a dry run unless it's baseball. So,
yeah, for sure.
But I did want to kind of transition and talk a little bit about college football, game very well. And see what your opinions were. I mean, you watched a lot of college playoffs this year. How do you feel about the college basketball playoffs versus the college football playoffs? Expanded now.
Yeah, college basketball definitely more competitive. Yeah, the college football playoffs, you've seen a lot of blowouts, and you kind of figured that would happen now that NIL is coming to play. Like teams have these powerhouse rosters, and you saw it, the disparity between teams. Like I went into the national championship knowing that Ohio State would win comfortably. Of course, Notre Dame came back to fight late, but it's like, did they really? Like it wasn't really a close game. And that's just what I feel like college football is going to come to be in the playoffs. Like you're going to have 12 teams, and really going to only have 2 to 3 teams that can truly win it all.
No, 100%. I think the NIL space too is kind of mess with it. I mean, you see Ohio State bringing back the majority of their like top starters, whether it be like Emeka Egbuka, Denzel Ward, Denzel Ward, right? Denzel Ward. They're Denzel Burke.
Okay.
Whether they're bringing back Denzel Burke, it changed. The whole thing has changed. I mean, Will Howard didn't go there until last year.
Yeah.
So it's
Will Howard shut me up. I thought he would, because once again, that's why you guys shouldn't bet. I formed a bad opinion of Will Howard because he lost me money when he was with K-State. So I didn't want to give Ohio State a chance because I was still bitter about some of that money that I lost. Yep. He proved me wrong.
I think, what was it, the game they played Oregon, right? It was Oregon versus Ohio State early in the season, and then you had the Will Howard slide.
Yeah, it was
like
crazy.
almost like the Dak Prescott slide, where like time's going out, they have no timeouts left, and it just ended the game.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I had that was like the last leg of something for me, and I was like I was like, oh man, this guy can't make decisions. And then you see him win a national championship, but I mean, it just proves like you learn, you learn throughout the whole thing. I think that the college football playoffs will eventually, kind of shake itself out, figure itself out. This being the first time it's been expanded. It's gonna be. You're gonna have these Boise States having uneven matchups and have a bye because they impressed so much. And it's like next year there's more than likely not going to be an Ashton Genty on one of those teams. So it's like you'll see, the Bamas sneak in and stuff like that.
That's true.
But I mean, sort of transitioning from that, this episode.
Yeah. It's a huge one.
It's a huge episode. Grady Judd, America's Sheriff.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. Great dude. I mean, he was I've never met him before. I've been in the same room as him. taller than you would expect. I would say he does wear those big boots, but he was a really nice guy, very respectful. Ran a little late, but it was because of a good story, which
Great
he'll talk
story.
about in the podcast. Basically, it's just he's too famous, too popular.
He's doing what he does, man, making an impact on the community, and just the opportunity to sit down and chop it up with him, because they don't sit down with a lot of people. So that was a blessing in itself, and just to see what he stands for and the impact that he's making on the community, it was dope.
It was great. And then there's also the biggest thing that I took from this episode was, would Grady Judd have been the first iteration of Cooper DeJean?
Yeah, he was talking about playing. A little defensive back, man.
That was honestly, when you ask someone like that question, like if they want to play, what position they want to play.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna say quarterback,
and he did at first, but then he was like, if I was playing defense, I'd want to play D-back because then I can try and guard all those talented people. I was like, that's a winner's mentality.
Yeah. I don't know, Grady on that island, man. I'd love to see it.
But yeah, enjoy the episode. We'll catch you guys. We'll catch you guys on the back end.
All right, guys. So we're in a new studio today. We're at the Polk County Sheriff's Office with America's most popular sheriff, Sheriff Grady Judd. I appreciate you joining us today.
I'm glad to be with you. How are you doing?
And I'm great.
Good. Me too.
You're a hard man to get in touch with.
I
Very
stay
busy. Yeah, very busy. But you were just talking to me behind the camera about how you were behind because you were congregating and having conversations with people that wanted to take pictures with you.
Sure.
Why is that so important to you?
I was a young man. I grew up on South Cumbie Road in Lakeland. My dad was a working man. Mom stayed home and tried to take care of us. So we were not wealthy. We struggled as a family. My dad and mom were very strong Christians and raised us right is right and wrong is wrong and wrong is never right. But I can remember I never had the cutting edge clothes or shoes, because I had the working man's clothes and shoes that he could afford to buy his son. And as I got especially into my 8th and 9th grade years and into high school, kids who were able to have the fancy clothes and ultimately drive the fancy cars, I can remember when they would walk past me. They wouldn't even acknowledge I existed. And that hurts your feelings, especially at that age of life, And I thought to myself, if I ever get to be anyone or somebody that someone would want to talk to or want to interact with, I would never, ever walk past anyone that wanted to talk with me. Well, you fast forward a lot of years, you get to be the sheriff, and there's a whole story about that. But I can't walk past anyone that wants to talk to me. I don't want to walk past anyone because I remember how people made me feel.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, some of those kids that used to walk past me, because I was that kid from South Cumbie Road, are the same ones that want me to come to their events today. And I find it interesting, but I'm polite.
Yeah.
I don't say, well, you should have talked to me then. I
give them grace.
I smile and I give them grace because that's what God would want me to do.
Sir.
But the reality is, I have this passion for helping people. I have this passion for interacting with people, but I have this passion for respecting people. And that's why it works for me. And that's why I'm late today. I went to the restaurant. It was one of those days. Probably 3/4 of the people in there wanted their photograph with me and wanted to talk to me, and I just do that. And I like it too.
Yeah,
by the way.
I don't consider it you being late. I think you're right on time.
Well, thank you,
because you're
sir.
doing exactly what you need to do, impacting lives. Just think about some of the people that you came across today. Who knows what they're going through? Just talking with you may have changed their day.
Sure, and we never know what other people are struggling with, what issues they may have. So a kind word always goes a long way. And you know what? A kind word's free.
Yes, sir.
So, and that's important.
You mentioned that you're from Polk County.
I am.
Born and raised.
Yes, sir.
What made you want to get into law enforcement? Like, when did you know that you wanted to get into it?
You know, it's a God thing, I believe, because from the time I was, 4 or 5 years old, I wanted to be in law enforcement. I can remember my mom made me a little policeman's outfit, and they had the old 8mm cameras, and she had a video of me in my little policeman's uniform at 4 or 5. And I never thought about doing anything other than that. So I think it's my mission, Phil, and always has been. And I wanted to be the sheriff one day. I've had opportunities to go do other things, pretty nice jobs, pretty nice appointments, but really what I want to do is serve the people as a sheriff.
Yes, sir. You're very open about your faith. You just talked about it a little bit earlier. Why is it so important to you, and how does it impact you every single day, and how do you use it to make an impact and a difference on the job?
Well, the reason is simply this. God is in control of everything. And none of us would be where we are if it wasn't for God's will. Mm-hmm. Now, God gives us a really good brain and a really good body, and whether or not we get to where we want to be or not is up to us. Mm-hmm. So if people that go down the path of abusing drugs and alcohol say, well, where's God? Well, God gave you a brain. You chose a different path.
You made a choice, yeah.
He gives you a free choice in life. But the reality of it is God's always been number one in my life, and my family's been number two, and it's worked pretty well that way. And then the sheriff's office. Now, if you talk to my wife, she'll tell you that God's number one, the sheriff's office is number two, and the family's number three. But sometimes that's because of the crazy long hours you have to work in order to serve people or help people. But for me, that's the inspiration and it's the energy every day to get up and go to work, is to know that I am following God's plan for me in my life to help others.
You mentioned wanting to be in law enforcement early on as a child.
Yes, sir.
But law enforcement is very dangerous. Did you think about this when you were a child, and ultimately kind of give us an idea of how dangerous it is every single day, stepping out into the field and making a difference?
Sure. You don't think about that, because if you made a list of the pros, the reason to get in law enforcement, and the cons, the reason not to get in law enforcement, the reason not to get in law enforcement would be much longer than the list to get in law enforcement. It's shift work. It's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays, it's away from family. You can make much more money working that hard in another discipline. So why do you do it? You do it because you have this inner passion to help other people. And it is dangerous because it's not the most dangerous job. A construction job is much more dangerous physically than law enforcement. But the difference is, if a building falls on you, it's by accident. Somebody didn't push the building over on you. Where in law enforcement, when you're hurt, it's because of an intentional act by someone else to hurt you. So I think you have to be aware all the time that we don't deal with what I call normal people. If we deal with normal people, they're victims or they're witnesses, or maybe they've been driving a little too fast. But society hires law enforcement officers to deal with violent events on their behalf. And sometimes that means wrestling people, sometimes it means fighting straight out, and sometimes it means standing in front of a knife or a gun so people in the community don't have to. So is it dangerous? Yes, it has its dangerous moments. But it's so fulfilling all of the time that you're willing to take the risk, because protecting someone else's life is worth giving your life for, if necessary, so that we can live in a free society.
Wow. I remember a situation, I was in middle school, and all the schools were locked down at the time. This was my introduction to Sheriff Grady Judd. All the schools were locked down at the time. I believe there was a manhunt for a guy that had killed the K9 and one of your police officers. And we didn't really know what was going on. They locked us down and they kind of kept everything quiet. And then I found out about everything later on. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately you found the guy, and then we heard about how he died. One thing I remember is the quote that came out from you when they asked you, because I believe it was 68 shots let off into the guy. And they asked you why 68 shots. A lot of people are like, well, the guy killed police officers, he deserved it. Then you have another side that's like, oh, maybe it's overkill. But then your response was, we would have shot him more if we had more bullets.
Right. That was probably the quote that put me on the map. Mm-hmm. So what occurred that day, and you know, it's a little depressing to me, by the way. If you were in middle school, that means you've grown up and I've grown old, right? But it was my, I think, second year as the sheriff. I'd worked for the sheriff's office my entire adult life, but it was my second year as the sheriff. And in fact, on that particular day, I was home packing to go on vacation. And I got up real early and I had packed, and we were going out west. I'd always wanted to go to Wyoming. And so I laid down to take a nap. And my dad, who lived at the other end of the property, is beating on the windows. Mm-hmm. And I woke up. My wife wasn't home, and she was out running errands, getting everything together before we went on vacation. And I looked, and there was my dad beating on the window. I going, what are you doing? He said, son, wake up. They've shot one of your boys. And that's how I learned about it, because I had laid down to take a nap. And so anyway, long story short, the vacation was off, and I ran to the scene. And I learned that we had stopped a car simply for speeding. And then the guy didn't have a driver's license. And then he ran from us into the woods. So we call for a K9. As the K9's tracking, he had a gun. He shoots and kills the K9. He shoots and kills the K9 deputy. He shoots the backup deputy. And by now we're calling for help in securing a perimeter. The Lakeland police officers came out to help, and he shot at two of them. Fortunately, he missed the two of them. Mm-hmm. So we had a manhunt through the night. And the next morning, as we had SWAT team members walking shoulder to shoulder, because it's very thick underbrush, very thick underbrush, he pointed not only a gun, but the dead deputy's gun at a SWAT team. And of course, in like a second and a half, there's a lot of shots. Well, it doesn't take much understanding to see if you point a gun at a SWAT team, you're going to get shot a lot. Mm. So it's now the weekend, and the phone rings, and I think it's one of my fellow sheriffs. It turns out to be the Orlando Sentinel reporter. And he goes, we just got the autopsy where your guys shot this guy 68 times. Mm-hmm. And what would you say? And I said, well, I guess we ran out of bullets. But I went on to explain to him that this guy was very violent. Mm-hmm. He was very dangerous, and we weren't taking any more chances. Yeah. He'd already killed a K9, killed a deputy, shot and tried to kill another deputy, and tried to kill two Lakeland police officers. Mm-hmm. You know, he could have given up peacefully, but he didn't. He chose that outcome, and he chose it, and we obliged him. So that's how that all came about. And of course, the bottom line to it is we did follow-up investigation later on, and we learned that he was a hitman, that the narcos, organized narcotics people, would hire him to go collect debts or kill people. Wow. So he was a hired assassin. And that day he just decided that he was not going to be arrested for no valid driver's license. That's the most he could have been charged with, was a misdemeanor. And he turned it into that horrible day.
Well, and that was my introduction to you. So from the jump, one thing I noticed is just being bold. You have a lot of people in this world that in that moment they would have wanted to be politically correct.
Sure.
And I have a high level of respect for people that are very bold in their convictions, and that just stood out to me. So I had to ask it. But one thing you see across the country is sometimes people in law enforcement, you have good, you have bad. What are your thoughts on people in law enforcement that may be crooked and may not be abiding by the law themselves, and how do you ensure that never happens with the Polk County Sheriff's Office?
You know, we hire from the human race. So there's no perfect people. You know, there was one perfect man that walked the face of the earth, Jesus. And what did they do? They killed him. So we are going to hire people despite psychological tests, polygraph tests, background investigations from time to time, and we employ over 2,000 people. From time to time, we're going to hire somebody that disappoints us and disappoints the community. When someone violates the law, I'm going to put them in jail, whether it's the community or my law enforcement officers, and I have a record of that. And not only that, I'm going to do a press release and a press conference and say, this person violated the trust of the community and they violated the sheriff's office trust. Not only can they not work here anymore, but here's a picture of the guy that used to be a deputy that we put in jail. That's how you build trust.
We would like to thank Craig Burt Real Estate Group for sponsoring this episode of Trials of Triumph. Whether you're a first-time home buyer searching for your dream home, a seller aiming to maximize your home's equity, or an investor seeking a prime opportunity, partnering with a dedicated real estate professional can make all the difference. Your real estate goals are their top priority. The Craig Burt Real Estate Group is committed to providing unmatched customer service, and they are genuinely driven to help you achieve your property goals. As your go-to resource for all your real estate needs, they offer a proven marketing plan for sellers, ensuring that your property is widely promoted across major real estate platforms and paired with exceptional negotiation skills. For buyers, they diligently analyze the local markets and trends to help you find the perfect home at the right price. If you're looking for a positive and helpful partner ready to provide exceptional service, make sure to reach out to the Craig Burt Real Estate Group. Right now, I promise you, they will not disappoint.
I wish that I could hire people who never made a mistake, but that's impossible.
That's not reality.
But I can tell you this, and you can ask any of my deputies, there is a clear understanding with them that you do what's right, I'm going to do what's right. You do what's wrong, I'm still going to do what's right. And that's the standard that we live by. But the community deserves that. You can't hold the community accountable if you don't follow the same rules and laws. And that's what we believe, and that's what we teach and coach here at the Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir. How do you feel when you see someone that may have started off on a bad track, maybe getting in a lot of trouble, and then they change their life around for the better and start making an impact in the community?
I'm pretty excited because that tells us the system's working. And I like to tell this one story that I auction off days with a sheriff or lunch with a sheriff. And what happens, people go to their different charities and fundraisers. And if they don't raise up to like $2,000 or $2,500 to spend the day with the sheriff, anything less than that is lunch with the sheriff at the jail. So one day I had these 2 or 3 folks that were having lunch with me at the jail. And there was this one man, and he was a huge man. I mean, he was tall. His shoulders were that wide. He would have made a great defensive or offensive lineman in professional sports. I mean, he was big man. So after lunch, I said, okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go down and let y'all see a jail cell, and see how we supervise the people. And all of a sudden he asked me, he says, was that in block this or cell that? And I go, so I'm thinking now he's worked in maintenance in our facility, or maybe he helped build the facility. And he said, no, I haven't done that. He says, I've been in jail. I said, you've been in jail? He said, yeah. He said, I spent my teenage years, my 20s, my 30s in and out of jail. I know this jail as well as your detention deputies do. I said, Well, what are you doing here now? He said, well, when I got in my late 30s, I woke up one morning on a violation of probation in this jail. I spun around and I put my bare feet on that cold concrete. And I said, I don't want to ever come back here again. So I got out. I went to work at a business. I now manage that business. I got married. I've got 2 children. Now, he was now in his probably his late 40s, so this is 10 years later. And he said, I went to a charity auction, and he said there was lunch for the sheriff. I paid $250 to come here and eat the same stuff that y'all used to feed me for free. And I go, well, tell me about that. He said, well, I wanted to prove to myself that I could walk in, have lunch with the sheriff, walk into a jail, have lunch with the sheriff, and turn around and walk out of the jail when I wanted to. Well, that guy's my hero. I thought, this is perfect. This is the guy I'm looking for, because I don't ever get to see him. All I get to see is the ones that come back and come back and come back and come into the system. But that man made a difference. And I said, tell me, what changed your life? He said, well, y'all offered me all the rehab programs, the drug programs, the alcohol programs, the counseling, the probation, he said, but I was young and I was going to do what I wanted to do and not follow society's rules. He says, but when I woke up that morning and I put my bare feet on that cold floor, I thought to myself, I am tired of coming to jail. He said it was age and self-determination that I wouldn't come back, but I had to make one more trip back to prove that I was a productive person in society. Well, what he was a leader in society, you see. For a long time, he wanted to lead against the rules of society. And now he's leading in society. He's happily married. He's got children he's raising the right way. He's a boss at his business. He could have done that same thing in his early 20s, but he had to grow up first.
What are your thoughts on marijuana now that you start seeing it being legalized in different areas for medicinal uses?
Sure.
I know you've always been against the use of it.
Yeah, and I hadn't changed my mind.
Okay.
And here's why I haven't changed my mind. I'm not negotiating, I'm not denying that there may be some medical purposes for marijuana. And quite frankly, if you're very, very ill, very, very sick, you're on the cusp of death, if marijuana helps you, I don't care. I don't care. You know, if some of my family were very, very sick and this is the only way they could get relief, marijuana, you know, whatever, whether it's legal or not, to help them or comfort them in their final days of life. But I don't get to see the person that uses marijuana on the weekend and gets up and goes to work on Monday morning and is responsible. I don't see that person. What I see is the guy who uses meth. And I'll tell you that 97 out of 100 people that got meth in their pocket have marijuana in their pocket. I can tell you that it's a step-up drug. I can tell you that there's now research that talks about how it creates psychosis. I can tell you that we have spent decades telling folks, you smoke cigarettes, you get lung cancer. It's not just lung cancer, it's all these other health-related issues. But at the same time, they don't say one word about smoking marijuana creates lung issues or health issues. It's just not healthy. And I see the people that drugs have drugged them down. So at the end of the day, I hear people say, well, marijuana is no worse than alcohol. Well, alcohol's pretty daggum bad if you let it control your life too. So there's always going to be that argument. I tell folks, if society decides that marijuana is okay, we'll quit enforcing the law. Because I'm the law enforcer. I'm not the lawmaker. I don't get to interpret the law. I don't get to make the law. I'm just the enforcer of the law. That's why medical marijuana is legal today. And if you have a medical marijuana card and you're following the rules, then we're not arresting you because that's the law. But here's what I know, and I told everybody, prior to marijuana being legalized for medical consumption, there was two ways to violate the marijuana law: possession or sell. Right? That was all. If you legalize marijuana at any level, there's going to be regulations and rules. And I explained clearly, and I think the data will back that up, that you will see more arrests for violating marijuana regulatory laws than you would have ever seen for just violating the marijuana law of you have it or you sell it.
We would like to thank Howell, Buchanan Strong for sponsoring today's episode of Trials of Triumph. They are a healthcare licensing and professional licensed law firm headquartered in the capital city of Tallahassee, with offices located throughout the state, assisting those with healthcare regulation compliance, healthcare transactions, and other healthcare defense. If you're facing legal problems, you're going to need a strategic defense. Howell, Buchanan Strong is Florida's trusted law firm to help you with your licensing issues.
Because there's more ways to violate the law. But that's a society issue.
Yeah.
And I'm going to listen to my bosses, the
Yes,
people
sir.
in society.
I got you. Child trafficking is a huge issue in America.
Right.
What is the sheriff's office doing to fight against the exploitation of our children?
Every day we fight that. We have a special team that goes undercover, and now most of child exploitation is done on the internet, or it's a family exploiting, or friends. A lot of times it's uncles exploiting children, or it's boyfriends exploiting children. So at the end of the day, whether it's online or either some family, friend, or relative, we go after those that's trying to abuse children. Think about this. When we were born, we didn't get to decide who our parents were. We didn't get to decide what clothes we wore, what food we ate, what house we lived in, what car we rode in. Children are totally dependent on us. And we owe it to those children to give them the best kind of lifestyle. Well, the antithesis, the 180 degrees from a good lifestyle, is not just a bad lifestyle, but it's being a victim of sexual abuse. That's the worst side of it. I'm always going to do everything I can. My deputies are coached up, and they are always going to do all they can to protect children.
Sir, we appreciate you.
Oh, I love being the sheriff, and I love serving the people.
You talk about purpose, and you said that you believe this is your God-given purpose. When you think about legacy, I know it's not something that we often think about while we're
Sure.
still living. What do you want your legacy to be?
You know, if at the, I hope to live to be at least 100. I want to be sheriff until I'm at least 90. Then I'll take 10 years off before I die. But at the end of my time, if they say, hey, he kept a safe community, he loved the people, he didn't put up with any baloney, he took care of his kids and his grandkids and his family, and he treated all of the community as if those children in the community were his children, then I'll be happy. And he feared God.
Amen.
Amen.
We talked about it a little bit off camera. You
Sure.
talked about being a huge sports fan.
Oh, yeah.
If you weren't a sheriff, of course, making a huge impact in the world, what sport would you play in what position?
The obvious answer to that is the sport I like to watch the most is football.
Okay.
I love football. If the love of football would transcend to talent, I would be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I just love it. Before I got consumed with being sheriff, I used to go to my alma mater, the Lakeland High School, and I would start on Friday night with high school football. Watch football all day Saturday. I mean, all day, starting with game day. Man, I love it. The fall, you turn game day on, and it's just It's totally awesome. And then watch college ball to, midnight or you fall asleep. And then I'll end up with the pros. And then, of course, Monday Night Football. I like football. The position, if on offense, the fun position is quarterback, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But on defense, I would like to play the defensive backfield because trying to cover those talented guys is unbelievable. But I love to watch any sport. I love to watch immensely talented people.
Mm-hmm.
Like this weekend, there was no football, so I watched downhill skiing. The person who won that downhill tournament out of about 10 or 12 won by like 2/100ths of a second.
Right.
And the entire field of 10 was within like a second of each other. Now, can you imagine the talent to run downhill 10 people and hundredths of a second? That's remarkable. I watched then I watched the Daytona 500. I want to watch, and in between I watch basketball.
You're a sports fan.
I love it. I love it all. But that's how I relax, and I am so impressed by immensely talented young men and women.
Yes, sir. I remember we talked earlier about my introduction to you.
Right.
A few years ago, I released my first film. I was still trying to figure out,
Really?
find my way after sports, after I retired. And you guys sent me a letter congratulating me. It was on Bay News 9,
Right.
the film. And shortly after that, it was purchased and picked up for worldwide distribution.
Wow.
But I still remember the letter that I got from the sheriff's office, and it was signed by you at the bottom.
Sure.
And while these emotions are going through my mind, feeling like I did something right with my life, the first thing that popped up was, did he really sign this, or did he hit me with a stamp?
I sign every one of them.
Okay.
In fact, I had a meeting today. I send birthday cards out to the men and women of the sheriff's office and to all of our volunteers. So I have a stack of birthday cards like this. And I said in meetings, and as I'm being briefed, I sign every birthday card every month. I sign every card that goes out to the community personally. That I don't have any stamps or signatures. Stamps for what I call personal correspondence. Now, if I am going to send an official letter from internally, I've got 2,000-ish employees, I'll sign the original, and then they'll duplicate that for just normal business. But anything that's personal, anything that's recognizing, anything, I do condolences cards for those who lose loved ones. That's all hand signed.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. That was a bright moment for me. I was still trying to figure things out, but you guys definitely brightened my day. But why is it so important for you to celebrate people in the community that are doing positive things?
Well, because if something goes wrong in the community, the media's all over it, social media's all over it, people seem to gravitate to the negative, right? But every day in society, people do great things to help people, whether they work at the florist, they work at the hospital, they work at the doctor's office, they work in the pharmacy, they work construction. We need to look for the good and praise it. We need to look for the good and reinforce it. And that's what I try to do every day. So for every time we do my morning briefings, and talk about the crazies that do stupid stuff, what are you doing? You're stealing from a store and dropping your cell phone. Well, we appreciate that. It makes it easier to track you. That's funny, and we're gonna talk about that. For every one of those, I probably do 10, 15, 20 congratulations. You're a real American. You're what society's all about. So that's pretty cool.
Man, it's been a pleasure to sit down with you. I know that you're busy, but I just want to say thank you for not only taking the time out of your busy schedule, but the impact that you're making and ultimately allowing God to continue to lead you in every aspect of your life.
Thank you, sir, and it was my honor to meet you today.
Yes, sir.
I'm very proud of what you're doing and making a positive difference in the community and saying, look, I'm a guy who had a great football career, and this is the next phase of my life. And it's all of our jobs to work together to have a great community.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm just so glad that we were able to film with Grady Judd. He truly is the same dude as his viral videos.
And it's so hard to get get him to sit down for these things because he's so busy. So man.
Oh yeah, and he graciously made time for us in his studio. Nonetheless, that's something we didn't really talk about is we got to tour the facility, which was super cool. We didn't record it because little.
Yeah, you can't do that type of
thing. Didn't want to.
They probably kicked us out of the building,
man. But it was a spectacular facility. It was really cool. We saw where he did all of the press conferences, as well as all of his viral videos and the green screen and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a spectacular episode. Freddie, what are you getting up to this weekend? What's going on?
Man, this weekend's actually my daughter's soccer game. They're in the playoffs, so. Pray she has a good game and, dominate so that they get in the championship next week. And then she's playing on my birthday. So no better way for her to celebrate my birthday than to come out with a win. And, ultimately for you guys to go subscribe to the channel, that's the best way to celebrate my birthday, right? Like, you guys got to subscribe. Saturday, April 12th, that's my birthday.
Least you can do. That's amazing. How old you turning? Do you mind if I ask?
Yeah, man, I'm 30. Yeah, man.
Big
What did they say in the movie? 13 going on 30? She's at 30. No, I can't say that. My wife would get me. But we said 30, flirty, and thriving. Nah, I ain't. I'm locked in, man. We locked in.
Put that on a t-shirt for it. 30, flirty, and thriving with the spear. Oh, goodness. Well, this weekend, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Hopefully, your daughter, she's an athletic powerhouse. I see on Instagram. Yeah. She's learning it real quick, and hopefully she pulls out the win. That would be spectacular. That would be an amazing birthday present. But yeah, I'm going to the UFC event this weekend.
Okay,
in Miami.
Nice.
So I'm going to UFC, I think 314, with it's crazy.
Which fight are you most excited about on the card?
Ooh. I'm going with one of my better friends from in town, and he is a huge Paddy Pimblett fan. Paddy the Baddy. And he's fighting Michael Chandler. And that's gotta be my most excited fight. It's a 5-round fight. It's the co-main event. But it's gonna be super fun. I fell in love with UFC during the pandemic and have watched every event since. So it's one of those I've become a super fan. I've gone back and watched other ones. So being able to go to a real numbered card with a title fight, because it's the featherweight title.
You can't beat that.
It's gonna be super cool. But yeah, we just wanted to thank you all for watching this episode. It's always a blast filming these and doing the stuff. And this season we're going around a little bit more than we usually would. That first season was all shot inside the studio.
Yeah.
We filmed with Grady in his studio, and then we filmed another episode that's down the pipe at another location that was really fun. But yeah, I don't know if you wanted to give him a quick tease on the next episode, Freddie. But
yeah, man, we got a former college football superstar with a crazy story. It hit the world by storm, and he's from the Big Three, Florida Big Three, and I'm looking forward to it. He had a lot of ups and downs in his career. Went from being at the top of the game, and then life happened, and adversity hit him, and now he's back on that road to success and having a high level of success in this new career. So I'm excited to get into it.
Oh yeah, he's a grinder. So it was another great episode, another great recording session. So I'm excited for everybody to check that out.
Thank you to Indie Atlantic Film, Concord Coffee, and our sponsors for this episode, the Craig Burke Real Estate Group and Howell Buchanan Strong. All of the support from you guys makes this possible. We've been traveling a lot for this season. We've been expanding our horizons, and we're looking forward to a successful season, but we wouldn't have been able to make it happen without you guys. So thank you. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.